Let's find out what's in the feed. What's in the feed this week? Let's find out what's in the feed. Welcome everybody to this week's episode of What's in the Feed. What's in the Feed is your weekly dose of news, entertainment, and just general goings-on the socials. This week, we're going to start with the continuing escapades of one Mr. Mark Davis. Mark Davis is running for Congressional District 16. And as you know, the last couple of weeks have had segments dedicated to Mark Davis. You know, I was one of the first to report on his unconscionable actions in threatening to dox several influential content providers on the socials. Now, I won't throw those names out there. If you really want to get a deep dive into what initially happened with Mr. Davis, you can go back to the prior episodes. And if you know, you know. As I stated earlier in this week, we were going to discontinue any of the follow-up with Mr. Davis. And that's because, frankly, his aspirations as a politician are pretty much over. The math was never in his favor. I was probably one of the only to break down the actual stats because everybody else was really mad about what he did. But let's break down the stats first. Before the initial hubbub with him and the doxing controversy, he was at a 4% chance in a 75% red district, running against currently two frontrunners in the Republican race and two frontrunners in the Democratic race. Now, there are a few others sprinkled in, but when we go to Calsheet and we go to Polymarket, the odds only run the top two candidates. And in a heavily red district with his nearest competitor, and that would be the lowest running Democrat, who was currently running at 8%, his nearest competitor had less than a 10% chance. And when we're talking about small numbers like that, they are far beyond the margin of error. There just is no chance. So they always say that any publicity is good publicity. So I felt like to continue after knowing that he had been exposed, at least I believe properly exposed, that we wouldn't really give him that much airtime. However, he has resurfaced. Now, when I did the original episode last week, I played a video, and this video had gone viral. Most of you have seen it, when Mr. Davis is confronted by a citizen reporter.
I'm not going to do this. You said somebody after a mother.
A woman is somebody that MAGA beats.
No, you said a definition of a woman is somebody you beat. It's everywhere. Everybody, just so you know, he has put on social media that women are people that you beat.
That MAGA beats.
No. I got it. I'll show you. He also 2 days ago asked his 100,000 followers to go after a woman and find her.
The definition of a woman is somebody that MAGA beats. Because you guys are violent, moronic, evil Nazis.
And at that time, I did not know who that citizen reporter was. I saw the video and it was circulated through several different accounts. We'll come to find out that that video actually was recorded by CRT-Mom, also known as Chelsea Boyle. And Chelsea did a great job. If you watch the video, then it gives you a good overview of the temperament of Mr. Davis. And this is why when I saw the exclusive video that she sent to me to be shown on the show today, it started to make a lot of sense. If you watch the original video, this is the Mark Davis confrontation video, which I've got to say was some of the best citizen journalism that I've seen all year, and very brave. He's confronted by Chelsea and asked a few questions that, you know, were simple questions just for him to follow up on some comments that he made. Most famously, the comment that he made about women being someone that you beat, implying that women are to be abused. Now, he claims that what his intention was when he made that statement was that he meant that women are people that MAGA beats. Now, how that correlates, I don't know. Did he misspeak? I didn't hear the original context, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I think he realized that what he was saying wasn't funny. Maybe he said it in jest or, he thought he was being funny when he said that. There's nothing funny about violence against women, and especially from the party that claims to be the party of women, which brings me to character. Today, as it develops, we've seen that Graham Plattner has resigned from the race for Senate. And this is another toxic individual who had affiliations with Nazi tattoos and lots of accusations of sexual misconduct. Accusations are just accusations until they're real. But I find that the left has one way or another tried to adopt whom they would have formerly considered toxic masculine men. Now, I'm not putting Mr. Davis in that category, even though he's got a loud bark. But I think that this is an individual who's overcompensating. If you want to learn more about alleged or accusations that were made to his character, you can go look at the last 2 episodes. That's where I go heavy on those. There's a lot of valid information that Mr. Davis is not whom he claims. However, after seeing this video, I think that it really needs to be addressed that Mr. Davis may be a harm to himself or the community. And this is why. So this is an exclusive video that was provided to me by CRT-Mom, Chelsea Boyle, who was the author of the original video that exposed Mr. Davis and his propensity for anger and violence. We'll blow this up and I'm going to play this for you. Now, this is ring camera footage. This is not set up. And so there is a little bit of a subtitle in there for a couple of threats that were thrown. But, it's not intended to be professional video here. But this was provided by one of Mr. Davis's neighbors. There have been several people that have reached out to me personally, but it looks like this particular individual reached out with this information and wanted Chelsea to make it public. And it is my pleasure to present to you a scoop on it in her official video.
You're walking, asshole. Fuck. Fucking go fuck home. Go fuck home now.
So loosely, you can see this is one of his neighbors walks by, has words. Words with Mr. Davis, and Mr. Davis escalates by threatening to shoot this individual. Okay. If you saw in the video that I isolated the last 5 minutes of it where I truthfully thought that CRT-Mom was in danger. If you watch the last few minutes of the video, I will break it down for you. And it is this simple. He starts to yell and he gets a little bit belligerent about the women are to be beat by MAGA, and you see that there is a individual, little old lady, who's trying to de-escalate, which I can understand. No one expected that he would turn it up from 1 to 10 when being asked questions. The person asking questions isn't in the wrong, especially if they're talking about public statements that are made by a public individual. So there's nothing wrong. We have freedom of speech. And to ask why you would want to dox a young woman with family, and why you threaten doxing others, and that you had a past of talking about violence against women, that, of course, if you had no guilt associated with that you would be able to probably explain that calmly and in a way that was understandable instead of getting angry and defensive. But if you see in the part that I isolated, that when asked for those in attendance to pay attention, they got very quiet, because seeing the actions of Mr. Davis, they started to see that he was out of line, that he was way too excited, and that he was moving a little bit too close. And he was moving towards Chelsea in a threatening manner. That's how I, saw it myself. This is a man with very deep anger management issues. This is not somebody who can be in office. As you can see, this is the pattern for Mr. Davis. So I'm told through good authority that he has been reported to law enforcement, and there's a long list of evidence. All of the stuff that he says and he does online is documented, and he said some pretty foul things. And like I said, I don't want to give this guy any more attention, but some of the stuff that he says is vile, and it's just unnecessarily heavy-handed, especially when it comes to women. Now, I know that Mr. Davis knows who I am personally and knows that I've been reporting on him. I gave him the opportunity to come onto my show, as I have other doxers and other misogynistic leftists who have attacked people for no reason, and gave him the opportunity to tell his side. I always am up for debate, but not only would he not debate me, he made sure to block me on all of his socials. So we know that Mr. Davis realizes that I'm going to continue to be a thorn in his side and that my audience is going to know exactly what he does. But he never responded to me. I replied to him directly 4 or 5 times. I posted to him directly about 5 or 6 times. And as quickly as this individual will respond back to a female, and I don't want to throw any names out there, but to a conservative female account with all kinds of vile language, I couldn't even give him to give me the middle finger emoji. Not only was it radio silence, but after at last week's episode and me posting up clips of that episode without adding his handle there, which, would connect him seeing it, he knew. That being said, Mark no longer sees what I do, but he's never going to be able to hide from me. Thank you, CRT-Mom. I wish I could have got you on. I know it was short notice. I appreciate you trusting me enough with this footage to report on the goings-on of Mr. Davis, and we will continue to let you know. So right now, there's a push with local law enforcement and authorities. Now, whether that means he goes to jail or there's some sort of a civil lawsuit. Initially, 2 lawyers from Davis County reached out to me directly and said, we will take this pro bono. We'll take the case pro bono. So if it goes any further, because he is violating a statute of the cyberbullying law in Florida, I had it written on a piece of paper. I'm sorry that I can't give you the statute. You can go and watch one of the earlier episodes, or if you can find a copy of this public service announcement. But that being said, this is a guy who's threatening his neighbors. He's threatening women. He's threatening people online. He's threatening to dox them. He's threatening to harm them. This guy's maybe all bark and no bite. But at what point in time do we start taking people seriously for who they say they are? If Mr. Davis is such a tough guy, then he may decide at some point that he does want to shoot his neighbor, or that he does want to dox an innocent individual, or that he does want to hit a lady. Because in the case of CRT-Mom, he was really close. Had there not been somebody in between the two, I fear she may have been harmed. But that's just my opinion. You go look at the video. Thank you for your hard work, CRT-Mom. Okay, well, guys, now we're going to go to the regular, normal format. And we're going to start this week off with a little bit of fun, something I call the top 5. And I'm going to start this week's top 5 with one from Don Luker, but I will start by saying I don't know if anybody else noticed that this week on the socials were a ghost town. Now, I get a huge amount of engagement just based upon, my comments and my interactions. I don't have the biggest following, but I got to tell you, this week was it was a ghost town out there, and I don't know if that is because they are changing the algorithm. I just can't keep up with it. I have no idea how it works. Just when you think you got it figured out, all of a sudden, you don't have it figured out. I get great numbers most of the time, and even through the whole algorithm change, I was able to change my strategy and kind of try to stay in the game, which is really what my intention was. Not my intention to begin with. The reason that I started the show was by demand. Was, I wouldn't say popular demand, but the amount of engagement that I was getting made people wonder who I was and where I was at and if I had a platform. And it made me start to think maybe I should use my voice and a platform. Of course, if you scrolled way back to episode 1 or 2 when it was the history episodes, I would have told you that I am a former artist and producer. And so I've been in the entertainment business. I'm comfortable in front of the mic and comfortable in front of the camera before YouTube was much of a place for a lot of shows. I did a vocal podcast called Fresh Out the Box. And I had a co-host and a news guy, and we did it in a traditional morning style radio format. And it was very successful until there was a issue with getting everybody in at the same time. Of course, everybody has a real job and, things pop up, kids situations. So we weren't able to keep it as regular as I would like it. And you can't do that to the fans. The show must go on. So we discontinued that. And for a lot of years, I kind of went back into the real world and disconnected myself from social media. I didn't like Facebook. Facebook was becoming a really negative thing way back when. I still don't find Facebook to be a positive place. I guess same can be said about X, but X felt like a little bit more controllable as it pertains to, content and being able to put your content out there as opposed to just keeping up with your third cousin or whatever. If you want to do that, then, Facebook is your place. But I found Facebook was to me, a dying platform when it comes to entertainment and just a little bit too many rules. There's really very few free spaces on the web. My favorite happens to be X, and I have expanded my empire, if you would call it an empire, to the other socials because I see how successful others are at using that to advertise their platforms. My main platform is this show. So if all you did was listen to this show and you never paid attention to anything I posted, I would love you. We have picked up momentum and there's been a bit of steam that has happened. Now, not jumping off of anybody else, but it seems like that I've been able to place myself in a more, reporter type role, which I didn't see happening. This was always intended to be strictly like a lark, funny, just, pointing, the finger at whatever the funny video of the week was because it's a different sort of a format. But, you find serious matters popping up in there. But the top 5 was always the part of the show where we were going to keep it light. So let me play this video starting off at number 5 with a dismal view. This would have on a normal week gotten me 2,000 3,000 engagements, but like I said, who knows, algorithm could be screwing me this week. Maybe I'm not Elon's favorite, but we'll start off with a video from Dom Luker. Check it out.
All right, this is a never seen before. Is they all valid? Let's start with this gun right here. Tell me what you got.
We go 4-3-X, you know what I'm saying? MOS. Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. Tell me what you got next, man.
We go 19X peanut butter jelly.
Okay, cool. Tell me what you got.
We go Glock 45, Gen 5.
Okay, cool. Tell me what you got.
Man, we go 2-tone Glock 17 with the gold barrel from the grad, you know what I'm saying?
Ooh, okay, tell me what you got. Tell me what you got. Hold on. How the fuck did you pull this out your damn? What the? Hold on. Quick draw that. Can you quick draw that?
Hold on.
Quick draw that. Stay back. Hold on. Quick draw that. Call it. 3, 2, 1, draw. Oh shit! Oh my God! Y'all know what I got, man. Block 19. Okay, cool.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, my critique on this was what Dom had to say. And of course, we all know Dom Luker, the reason that you guys are getting, your payouts the way that you used to get your payouts is because Dom found a way to pimp the algorithm and was able to make millions and millions of dollars from his posts. So Dom drives around in, Miami, Florida in his Bugatti, and I think maybe he might have lost a little bit of the street cred. This is not me busting, Dom for doing anything disingenuous or dishonest. He just figured out a way to pimp the algorithm, and the powers that be didn't like that, and that's why the whole monetization and the whole change of the algorithm started. If you don't believe me, go back to like episode 3 or 4. There was a huge hubbub, and that's when it all changed. And it was because of 1 or 2 different people that were making shit tons of money under the wire. And I think X was a little bit embarrassed about it. So now content providers have to really chase their tail to get paid. Anyways, I still respect him, and I still do look at his posts, and some of his stuff is very entertaining and some of his stuff is very informative. But his post on this was, these black kids are going viral for showing off their gun collection the right way. No gang signs, no attempted intimidation, no negative energy, just boys practicing their Second Amendment. There's a right way to do things. And I don't know if you guys watched the same video that I watched, but I'll pontificate after this, after I tell you what I said. So my comment on this one was, man, get the fuck out of here, Dom. You done softened up, bruh. Some of the coldest killers in my hood acted just like that. All jokey and nonchalant, and then flip and kill your ass. None of these niggas is legally carrying. There are no holsters. There's a lack of safety in their handling habits. Extended clips, which are legal in most states. And niggas shoving AR-15s in their pants. You in Hollywood, you lost your edge. Now, I can tell you right now, as a gun owner and as a person who takes the Second Amendment very seriously, and I believe that everyone should have a right to carry a firearm. There are rules and there's etiquette to the way that you conceal a weapon. And if you're in an open carry state as well, 99% of the time you're going to see guns in holsters. You're not going to see guys pulling AR-15s out of the front of their pants. Okay. And then the extended clips on the multitude of the guns that we're looking at there are probably illegal in many, many states. I can't say that there's an exception to the rule and that these guys are all law-abiding, gun-carrying Americans. I have to look at the clues. And looking at this video, just because these guys are smiling and they're all friends, don't mean that they're good guys. And I think from Dom's perspective, you expect to see the negative video where, they're busting at each other and, there's smoke and fire and, they're yelling back and it's negative. These are 5 friends who think it's cute to show their stuff on the interwebs, which you can tell that their level of irresponsibility that they're using handling those guns makes me immediately assume that these guys aren't doing this legally. So that's my take. That's number 5. Number 4 comes from Base Bandita. And check this video out.
Took the boys out for lunch. We went to Sam's Club. I bought them a pizza for today. Cause y'all swear we don't go out to eat. And when we do go out, we eat good. So speak what you know and not what you see. And now thank me later. Am I your business?
Mind your business. Anyways, this gave me flashbacks of the video where we saw the lady who took her sons to the steakhouse and had them fill up on the free bread. I think you guys can remember that one. That one really set me off because it's just a shame. Now, I was told later on in my comments that this was staged and that it was satirical. But even if that's what the case is, this lady who recorded this knows the hypocrisy of the videos that I'm talking about, where we're showing essentially mothers who are teaching their kids to take advantage of the system, or, in this case, it's a self-owned. always shocked to see videos like this because they present them as like a flex. Like, this is a flex. See how I divert the system? See how I outsmart the system? I'll just go buy a big piece of pizza from Sam's Club and I'll split it up 4 ways. Ha ha. Joke's on you, white man. Or I'll go to the steakhouse, or I'll go to, Texas Roadhouse, and I'll eat the peanuts and only the peanuts. Whatever it is, it's a lack of shame. In the time that I grew up in, and not too long ago, this would be shameful. But now we get these videos all the time, and it's just part of that black fatigue thing that we're going through right now, where people are really posting this like it makes them look smart, like they're doing something. And it's sad, and it's not a good look. This is not how we want to be teaching the next generation to act, to take advantage of, situations like this. It's just kind of too hard to go down the rabbit hole with this one. It's sad, and you never know what you're going to get your engagement on. So I'll scroll through something and I'll see something just as innocuous as this, and I'll make a comment on it. But, it's not that I feel like I'm trying to make some major point. But, I did have a comment on it, and it did make the top 5. So I said, first off, this is sad. It's almost as bad as the video with the mom feeding her kids with the free breadsticks at Longhorn. Secondly, we have a real problem with black folks proudly recording things like this, like it's a flex. They don't realize this makes them look like moronic losers. This is not a life hack. It's showing no shame, and this would have been shameful a few years ago. And that's just my opinion on this. I mean, don't do it. I get that you think it's cute, and oh my God, I'm, black empowerment, and I don't know. Sometimes I think it's a bit of a delusion. That's your number 4. Number 3 this week comes in from Sarah is Censored. And of course, don't look too hard at the engagements. I would usually call out the numbers, but what are you going to do? It's been a slow week. Check out the delusion in this video. When they released Carmelo Anthony and Lock Hunter, Jeff, Megan, and Jeff Roach. Wow, that's a lot of names. So this is supposed to be an inspirational video, and I'll read the thing on here because I didn't at first. This is part of this movement where now there's a group of people who think that since Carmelo Anthony got an appeal, that means he's going to get out magically. I hate to say it, that it's sad, the ignorance of law that some black folks have. An appeal does not mean that you're going to get a second chance. Will they look at the case again? Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a retrial either. But the point is that him getting 35 years actually was light. You don't get off on a case that is cut and dry. The reason that Carmelo Anthony was convicted is because he was guilty. And I think that black people at this point in time, there's a group of black people that need a hero. They need a martyr. They need an idol. Okay. We saw what they did with George Floyd. They need something to hang their hat on, to blame all of the ills of the world on the white man. They hate themselves. They're unsuccessful, and they wish that when they make that wrong mistake, that they will be excused because of whatever systemic racism or whatever the excuse of the week, the excuse du jour is. But this is just plain sad. And I'm looking at this woman, and she really thinks that something's going to happen. She thinks that the victim is going to go to jail. The person that you stabbed and killed was the one that was in the wrong. Yeah, I didn't, if you, and there were episodes that I had a few weeks ago in which addressed the whole Carmelo thing. There was a week in between when the verdict happened and when I was able to report on it, and that was a very eye-opening week. And that was the week that there were a lot of threats against white people, and don't go out of your house, and we're going to boycott, and all kinds of other crazy things, which never came to fruition because it's all a bunch of bullshit and it's all a bunch of lip service by people that are just life losers. But I had to comment on it. I had to say, I really hate to say it, but people like this should not be eating our food and breathing our air. It's literally a waste of resources. Yeah, I said it. It's very strong, and it's not what Jesus would say, but it makes you wonder sometimes. We are in the midst of more of these people than we like to admit that don't contribute to the day-to-day well-being of the American institution, and they make me look bad personally. This is why I am so outspoken about many of these situations. You cannot lump normal people in with a subset, a community that is basically segregated itself from the main community. I think that there's red-blooded Americans and patriotic Americans, and then there's sliver groups, whether that be in the white community, whether that be in the black community, whether that be in the Muslim community, or whether that be in the Mexican community. We all know they're that group. White trash, or, vatos and cholos, or niggas, or, radical Islamists. They don't represent the bigger population. However, they make the most noise, and there never seem to be a positive influence to the bottom line. So this Carmelo thing, which I don't know why this one popped up so long after the fact, that seems to have died down, but what a dummy. That's your number 4. Number 3 this week, coming in, and that's, boy, this is the video here of Jeanine Pirro. So let me play this for you, okay?
This is a priority not only for the president, but for myself as well. So, today a grand jury has returned a felony indictment against a defendant, David Hearn, for felony destruction of property, for which he faces 10 years in prison. The indictment is in response to an incident that occurred on June 19th of 2026, in which the defendant Hearn ripped a piece of recently installed sealant on the bottom of the reflecting pool at the Lincoln Memorial.
Okay. As much as I like Jeanine Pirro, this is not a critique of Jeanine Pirro, but my comment says it all. I know that a lot of you are frustrated the way that I'm frustrated, and it's plain and simple. I says this is a waste of fucking time. How about Omar? How about Waltz? How about Fauci? Etc., etc., etc. Okay, there's literally 100 names that I would rather hear, that you would rather hear. We have no accountability for COVID. We have nobody that's being held responsible for the Russia collusion hoax. Any of the people that went on the witch hunt against Trump, hell, Obama and his fake citizenship. I mean, there's a trillion people I would love to see indicted, but we have to have a press conference for the guy who's pulling, insulation off of the bottom of the fucking reflecting pool. Excuse my French. It's ridiculous. Waste time. Fantastic. Great. Well, we got him. It's going to do 10 years for vandalizing a pool. That's your number 3. Number 2 this week comes in, and it's, let's see here. Ooh, that one actually got some plays. We're going number 1. That was number 2. Number 1 now is Owen Schroyer took the black pill. So if you guys know InfoWars, former InfoWars reporter Owen Schroyer made a wave on the internet when he posted a picture of what he looks like now. So if you can see this picture, I can't blow it up without actually popping up on this post, which I'm not going to do because I want to read my comment. But you see, this is a separation of 1 year. This is pre-Black Pill Owen and post-Black Pill Owen. Owen took the black pill and got a bad case of Trump derangement syndrome, which is weird. InfoWars were some of the biggest advocates in getting Trump into office. But The second that Trump made a couple of decisions that Owen didn't like, and Owen went, nuclear on InfoWars, he may or may not have been told that he needed to tone down the rhetoric because it didn't fit the narrative. And ironically, that TDS was transmitted over to Alex. So hence, I don't listen to either one of these guys. I used to respect Owen as the being the one who used to play the middle, the more moderate. Of course, you get Alex, and you take Alex for what he's worth. You take him as entertaining, and you either laugh and or cry at him, but you never took him too seriously. You always took him with a grain of salt. But we used to be able to trust that Owen would play the middle ground, and Owen I don't know. It's sad to see your heroes fall from grace, but I knew immediately what Owen was doing as paying attention, as being part of, a small, media situation myself, that he thought that he was going to venture off on his own and start his own thing, similar to like when, Tucker left Fox. But my comment on that was Owen took the black pill. He thought he was going to strike out and become the next Alex Jones by shitting on the bridge that Alex built. He quickly realized that he fucked up majorly and that no one followed him off the cliff. Sadly, angry and broke, broadcasting live from his home garage empire, literally, the garage doors in the background. It's sad because I respected Owen 1.0. Just look at the Real Chase Geyser's comments right below me. The one actual InfoWars host that I can still listen to. Poor Owen is cooked. And that was right after this post went up by Tiffany Savage. And there was a post under me where Chase Geyser, another former InfoWars host that went out on his own and made his own, podcast or his own network, saw the picture of Owen. I'm sure they haven't been in contact with each other for quite some time. And he was surprised to see Owen looking as bad as he's looking, as fried as he's looking. There's been 100 theories as to what's going on with Owen, and it turned into a meme. I mean, it went like firecrackers. There were 100 memes and 100 AI videos of him looking like a clown and the whole 9 yards. So who knows? I don't hate the guy. Hope he gets the help that he needs. But yeah, it's really crazy. I think TDS might actually be a transmissible disease that really just does this to people. We've seen this example, and it's all hyperbole, and it may just be what's in the head, but physiologically, I mean, this is a different person. This is a totally different guy here, and it's sad. Well, that was your number one. Sorry about my counting. Sometimes when I go backwards, I lose track, but that is this week's top 5. Now, this week was a little bit quiet, so there's only a few videos, but I would like to end the show with rolling the tape on a couple of videos. So let's move on to roll the tape.
Okay, roll the tape.
Okay, we're going to start off with the first video this week, and this is just a developing story. I liked this video of Graham Plattner, whom after this video got bookmarked, I am hearing that he has stepped down and that he will no longer be in the Senate race. And this is based on some credible information of a additional sexual assault complaint. So let's listen to this. And I want you to know, this kind of bleeds into the beginning of the episode where I mentioned him. Okay. And he's very similar to a Mark Davis to me. These guys are not genuine. They're actors. They act like tough guys, but they're softer than the backside of a pillow. However, this guy is another loudmouth and another guy who's misogynistic. I'm wondering if this is starting to become a thing, or starting to become an issue with the candidates that the moderate Democrats are putting up. Remember, the moderate Democrats are in competition with the Democratic Socialists. The Democratic Socialists are getting a lot of wins, and we've got the establishment Democrats that kind of want to go back to being we're the Republicans are usually considered the oppositional party. However, the Democrats had tasted a modicum of power for many years, being moderate and being in the middle, where they were most of the existence that I can remember, but have over the past 4 or 5 years really gone downhill at light speed. And that started with the Biden and the DEI, and we must hire gays and trans and black and colored and whatever. So we were getting candidates that aren't the greatest candidates, and those candidates have extreme socialist ideals. And I think that they thought that they had a winner with this guy, and they really tried to support him. But it looks like Graham Plattner is out of there. After this video, I saw that Ro Khanna pulled his endorsement, but just listen to a couple of minutes. I don't really, it's not the subject matter that I want you to listen to. It's the fact that when you listen to this guy, you can tell how disingenuous it is. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I have a bullshit detector, but you tell me.
I wanted to directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false. Over the last 10 months, I have been deeply humbled by the faith Mainers have put in me. You have welcomed me into your homes, into your places of work, into your restaurants, into your houses of worship. You have shown that a different kind of politics, one that
I can't believe a word that he says. Hasta la vista, baby. I don't know who else is a candidate over there. None is better than the other to me. So when one is gone, I don't know if we can really it can really be considered a relief in my book. But Graham Plattner was one of those ones where he would have been in a problem. You don't change your white supremacist thoughts, and as they claim that we are the white supremacists, we got a guy with a certified Nazi tattoo right on his chest, being caught multiple times, hailing Hitler, and they will accept anything, and they will brush anything under the carpet that they can just to get someone in the seat if they have any sort of momentum. It doesn't matter if they admit to eating babies. If they have a sliver of a chance getting a seat for a Democrat in a midterm that is starting to look very bad for the Democratic establishment, then they're going to do that. Now, of course, we all have to make sure we show up during midterms, but if we show up the way that they showed up for the primaries, then I think that we've got a good chance of these people never being put back in office. For shits and giggles, I'm going to play this. This popped up actually after I recorded the first episode. And believe it or not, this is actually a second take. The first episode, I was on fire and we had technical difficulties, so I had to scrap it. But I want to play this. I'm going to play Claire's take on the exclusive video from earlier.
Is the Manatee County Sheriff's Department protecting Mark Davis? Because I just saw a video that his neighbor sent to one of my good friends, CRT-Mom, where he directly threatens to shoot his neighbor. And Manatee County Sheriff's Department has seen this video. What do you think would happen to a Republican if they said something like that to a liberal? Sheriff Rick Wells, do you not care about the safety of the citizens in your city? Do you not care about the safety of citizens of Florida in your state, mothers that have been threatened by Mark Davis? Because from where I'm sitting, this number should probably be ringing off the hook from conservatives in the state of Florida and in this whole nation that have a problem with Mark Davis threatening all of us on the internet. Watch this video. That is literally a direct threat. That is what the police have said they need to put Mark Davis in jail, to charge him with any sort of crime. They want to wait until he actually hurts somebody until they act. Well, now you have proof, and you've had it in front of you and done nothing. I just want to know why the sheriff's office isn't taking this seriously. Because at this point, I think DeSantis needs to know what this sheriff's office is doing, their lack of action when it comes to Mark Davis. I back the blue, I really do, but it's really concerning to me that the sheriff's office hasn't done anything in this case. If you're from that area, I would be legitimately concerned. But what do you guys think of this? Would a Republican be able to get away with saying things like that? I certainly don't think so.
I wanted to play that video because that bounces off what I said in the end of the first part of the episode, and that's what we're going to have to wait and see. And that's the part of it that I am not involved in it, that I don't know about, what's going on. So it's been reported, and there's already enough blowback. This is just the start of the exposing his threat today, because this is still a fresh video. So I think maybe it needs to make the rounds, and it looks like the Manatee County Sheriff's Office has been informed about this. So what it really means is at this point, if they don't address it, and any harm does come to any individuals that Mark has either doxxed or threatened, then the Manatee County Sheriff's Office can be held or should be held responsible for that. They had valid information and valid threats. There's plenty of information out there. I'm happy to provide the information that I was given directly. There's stuff that I didn't even report on that, after I felt like he had been dispatched properly, because it's more of a character thing. It's less of he committed a crime and he buried somebody behind a 7-Eleven. It wasn't that kind of stuff. It was character stuff. And stuff which ultimately we probably shouldn't care about. I mean, you can guess, and if you've watched a couple of episodes or you've seen a couple of posts, you know what I'm talking about. But I don't feel like I need to bring it out there and scream too much about it. I think you can see just by the character of the individual and make your own decision on what kind of a man you think that Mr. Davis is. But I thought I would play that video because it becomes pertinent and it happens in real time. I'm happy to hear that he has been reported, because initially on that episode, on the day of, I felt like someone needed to report him. I'm not from Florida. I'm not local. All I know is what I see on the internet. So for me to try to be some sort of a hero and go, I saw something on the internet and I'm going to call the authorities, it felt a little stupid to me, or a little bit disingenuous. I would say the people that felt like they were directly threatened should probably be able to do that on their own. That's perfectly fine. Or some of the people who got in contact with me who said that they've witnessed Mr. Davis act violent against people. But I think that was already noted. We already know about his incident in the Kroger's. You can look that up. He's yelling at somebody and he's having a shit fit about somebody who's wearing a MAGA hat. But yeah, the saga continues. I wish we didn't really have to talk about the guy, but if Claire's concerned about it, and I'm getting in inboxes from people to address it, that it still lives, and so we'll keep our eye on it. Here's a video from Sunny Hostin. You guys have seen it, and boom, bam, I can't believe it. Check it out.
And I said this on this show many, many years ago, because this is my 10th year on the show, and I said there are times when I walk into a community and I see American flags all over the community, and I suddenly feel unsafe because there is a section of this country that has co-opted the American flag, and they equate being an American or an American flag with white supremacy, and that should never be the symbol of white supremacy, but they have weaponized.
Because the flag belongs to all of us.
It does belong to all of us. But those men were wearing a flag.
Yeah, it does belong to all of us. You see, that's funny. The first time around, when I had the first take on this on the first episode that got deleted because of, issues, I said if we're listening to a 36-second clip, okay, where Sunny is telling you that she feels uncomfortable when she's walking in certain neighborhoods that have the flag up. What neighborhood is she talking about? What is that? Her neighborhood, the neighborhood that she lives in, the gated neighborhood in the hills of California, where someone puts a flag up, okay? Or where is that? Where is that? Because in the way that you're just trying to describe it, and you agree with the little lady over there on the side who says, yeah, the flag represents us all, and you nod your head to that. Well, where the fuck are you at where you think that you're in danger because the flag's flying? Is that in your neighborhood? Did you go somewhere deep down in the South? I don't understand this. You want to make this point that the American flag is, the symbolism of the American flag has been screwed up by a certain group of people. But I can tell you right now that I drive down the street and I see a flag that's in somebody's house. I do not immediately assume that that flag represents a Republican. Is that what you're saying? So then what you're saying is that anybody who's a Democrat should not be patriotic, right? Even though you agree with the lady over here who says that the flag represents us all, and you nod your head and you agree. So if your friend over there who's clearly a liberal, or maybe, liberal adjacent, if she had a flag up at her house, would you consider that threatening? How are you knowing where the threat is coming from? These people, they walk around, they wake up in the morning and their thought process is that they're going to walk out and they're going to be attacked by a fucking KKK member, okay? Someone's going to come out with a white hood and a white robe and, hit them with a tiki torch. When does that ever happen? This is an imaginary narrative that I can't believe that people and I think these people believe this shit. And excuse my French, now I'm getting all heated up and I've got my second wind here. It just doesn't make any sense. Nothing they say makes any sense. How is this show even on the TV anymore? Everything they spew is retarded. I mean, mentally, deficient of any actual truth. I don't get it. Anyways, folks, this has been a good one. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's remember that this show is available weekly on YouTube and Rumble. I would prefer that you watch it on YouTube and Rumble, but by popular demand, I post the full episode up on Twitter. Now, that means that, unfortunately, I don't get the kind of, monetary incentive than I would to get plays on YouTube. We're still trying to build the YouTube and still trying to build the, the Rumble. Of course, Rumble is the, alternative. I wanted it to be a Rumble exclusive because Rumble is a conservative platform that does not censor. And, I make 0.0. I do this for free. I don't expect to make any money, but at some point, maybe if we get enough of a viewership, that would be based upon subscribers and views. So putting it up on X is a, service. It's a public service because there's just, you gotta be a juggernaut on X, even with the amount of engagements that I would get on one video. But that's the way we're doing it now. So all three platforms, please, if you get a chance, listen to it on YouTube, Rumble, or X. And do not forget that each week we put up the audio podcast on Podbean. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's to hoping we don't got to talk about Mark Davis next week. This is your boy Low Tone. I'm signing out, and that's what was in the feed for this week. Bye-bye. We'll talk to you later.